Have you ever heard of the war cycle? I know that sounds crazy, but it seems like there's always volatility that we're dealing with. But if you look at the war cycle, we're actually heading towards what we would consider a big major war. If you look at the statistics of the years past, we're falling right in line. Now the question would be, are we going to see American soil be utilized? Are we going to see dangers here? Well, let's kind of jump into some numbers. There was a startling article that a guy addressed, and I think that we need to dissect it a little bit. Today's video starts right now. Alright guys, today is our last day in Colorado. It's actually fisting to snow if you look in the top corner. I don't know if you can see that big mountain range right there, but there is literally snow falling right now. So we're gonna try to get out of here before the snow hits. So we're gonna leave first thing in the morning about 4 o'clock. So we gotta get back to our farm. We can't be stranded here in Colorado. We got to get to Mississippi. So we're gonna be journeying back tomorrow. But I wanted to discuss this with you, something that we need to be paying attention to. Hey, I'm just to turn the camera around, let you look, just sitting right beside me, these beautiful elk. Puzzle to lay. All right, to the video. There was a study done by USA Watchdog, and it says renowned geopolitical and financial cycle expert Charles Nenner has been warning of once every 120-year war cycle is coming, and with hostilities in the Middle East, it could be clearly now. Now, the thing is, when we talk about war cycles and how we're seeing fights, we tend to see fights and wars not on our grounds. We tend to put ourselves in it, but we tend to keep it away from here, which is a great thing. I don't want war on our soul. However, what he is saying in this article is, due to the way we're looking at things, due to the fact that the southern border is open, due to the fact of all the issues that's going on, war could easily happen here in the U.S. If not happen here, there could be attacks happening here. So we may not see war on our soul, but we may see terror on our soul. And we have addressed that. The FBI came out and said that there possibly is terrorism coming across our borders, and for some reason we're not stopping it and closing up our borders. I don't understand that. But we may see chaos here on our soul, not just across the world. Now this guy knows what he's talking about. He's not been proven wrong on a lot of things that he's mentioned, dealing with finances and dealing with the markets and also the political movement across the world. So we need to take what he says and heed the warning, because as preppers, as someone who wants to live sustainable, we need to prepare. Also, he mentions this war, this thing that's going on, could cause 2 million deaths. 2 million people could easily lose their life. So are we looking at another World War I or World War II? Are we looking at something bigger? Are we looking at something biblical? We don't know. But we are looking at a very volatile time in the Middle East with the hostilities there. We are looking at very tough times across the Eastern European border with Ukraine and Russia. So we're seeing that happen. Now the question is, what happens with China and Taiwan? Also, what happens with local terror coming across our borders? So we should really be thinking through it. When we talk about, 2 million or millions could die because of these wars, let's talk about now how, as a prepper, we can look at this. What should we be concerned with? Well, first is this. There's a story that came out from the UN, and also from the US and the World Bank, stating that food insecurity has hit an all-time high across the world. There was also, in that same study, it showed that America could see food insecurities within the next decade. So if we're moving towards this war cycle, we're moving towards food insecurity, what's the other leg that we should be worried about? Money. So how can we handle this? We talked about this in micromanaging your own situation. We can't handle world politics and geopolitics, but you can handle the money and the food. The U.S. government came out and stated that more people right now, at this very instant, is on food stamps or on SNAP or on some kind of government assistance to pay for food and to have food because they cannot get it or cannot afford it. The more that we put ourselves involved with government, the more we put ourselves in bed with government, the more we become controlled. Now, the thing that I worry the most about is we're seeing the younger generations being okay with that. So are we willing to stand up for freedom? There was an interview done with a Gen Zer the other day. It said, I don't want to fight the world wars. I don't want to go across the seas. Well, I understand that, because I told you before, I don't want my kids fighting a war in Ukraine or Israel either. I will agree with that. But what I'm worried about is, are we building a lazy and a dependent generation to where they're not willing to even stand up here on our grounds, here in America. That's where it becomes an issue. So if we're seeing, again, more food insecurities, we're seeing more people not being able to take care of themselves, they're needing government assistance, so they need financial help from the government. It's making the government get bigger. They're mushrooming, they're umbrellaing around all its citizens. That could be a bad thing. So again, coming up with the fact of there could be war, the southern border is not closed, and now we're seeing more people involved with the government. You need to be looking at food options. What can you do to protect yourself? I've told you plenty of times, you need to grow gardens. But if you can't grow gardens, please start buying some freeze-dried foods. They can be pricey, but if you have no option for food, what are you going to do? You're either going to sacrifice your rights, maybe your freedoms, to allow the government to give those to you, or you're going to spend some money now and be able to put it up as a prepper. I want to grow food, but I also want to buy freeze-dried foods. I'm doing both. I want to be redundant. I've told you that. I want redundancy when it comes to prepping. Also, the way that I control the food. My food system is not broken because I'm over it. So if you cannot be over it, like for instance, there's areas up here that have beautiful wildlife. I mean, like the elk that we just saw, but they have rocky soil, so they may not can grow these big monster gardens. That's okay. Grow what you can in raised gardens. Grow what you can vertically. Grow what you can in your windowsill, on your porches. If you're not able to grow those, look at freeze-dried foods. It's 25 years shelf life. Please start looking at our pantry videos. Look at some of the things that last a lifetime. And I would challenge you to go back and look. I'll link that playlist below. Then it becomes to financial freedoms. You've got to get out of debt. Now, this same guy said, look, the dollar right now is stable. It's okay. But within the next 10 years, which again, we talked about the 10-year thing with the food insecurity here, because the food insecurity is already happening all around the world. More people are involved on food stamps and things like that, so your food quality is going down anyway. But say, for instance, you see the dollar is stable as of now. What can you do over the next, let's say 5 years? What can you do? Have you got a 5-year plan to say, okay, I'm going to start paying off debt, at the same time putting up some savings, some tangible savings, maybe buying some gold and silver, maybe buying some self-defense tools, because when things like last week happen, when all of a sudden a major crisis happens, like in Maine, the shooting, they're going to use that to their advantage to be able to control more regulation on you. Listen, that is such a tragedy. But what happens is the government and all the big players want to use those things to get more control over you and your freedoms. We are losing our freedoms all because we're willing to let the government tell us all about how they can help us with food, help us with money, CBDCs, have more firearm control because, hey, we need it. Remember, the areas that's got the strictest policies tend to be the ones having the most problems. So buying things like that, assets, is huge. So if you had 5 years, if you have 5 years to not be one of the 2 million, if you have 10 years not to be one of the 2 million that just happens to have to deal with a war and maybe the chances and the chaos that goes along with that, food insecurity, money insecurity, and having to depend on the government to take care of you health-wise, food-wise, and also money-wise. Control your own situation. As a prepper, as someone who wants to live sustainable, this is key. If there is wars happening, and they will because there's bad players all across the world, let's control our own environment. One thing I love about this community, I want to show it to you. So we're staying in like a village, and this village is just cabins, and it's a community center. They have community events, they have educational seminars, they have things for the kids. That's how we should be living our life. Community-based, doing things together. Like earlier they were having a big cookout and there was all kinds of people down there. That's what kind of life we need to have, because we can't do this on our own. So I want to be able to utilize this same thought pattern, and we're doing the same thing. We want clan living at our home. I want to take our land and we want to start building our houses for our children, so we have one area that they can all live, and then we can work together, because times are not going to get easier, guys. They're going to get harder. So if we can all have this clan living mentality, which we've missed out on in America, that's one thing Americans have missed out on, is clan living and understanding the benefits of working together. So my son doesn't have to buy a tractor, he can use mine. I don't have to do this because my daughter has this. We can work together and grow a whole garden that's bigger, they can feed all of us. Community living, clan living, and understanding the value of family and prepping. That's the way that you won't be the 2 million. That's the way that you won't see the loss of life just because of the chaos. That's the way the government won't just have their foot on your neck. just because you're willing to do some things on your own, be an independent. Question is, are we looking at a biblical war? Are we looking at World War III? Are we looking at food insecurity? Are we looking at more control over our self-defense tools and you're not going to be able to have them? There's some countries that have that now. You know what? I don't know. That's not for me to know. But what I do know is this. I'm going to protect my family. I'm going to prep for my family. I'm going to buy stockpile food. I'm going to grow food. I'm going to hunt. I'm going to gather. And I'm going to do all I can to give us the best chance to make it. Because we believe times are not going to get better. So when the crap hits the fan, I don't want to be the one with my hand out waiting for the government to fill it. You don't want to be that either. Guys, stay focused. I would challenge you this. Spiritually, this is a tough time that we're dealing with in America. Spiritually, make sure you're prepared. Start praying to seek Christ and understanding that there is peace, and peace comes from Him. I can prep, and there was a guy the other day that says, what's the difference in prepping and paranoia? And he was trying to be kind of like play on words. He was also saying, you know, you're crazy, basically. Well, what I said is this. I still live my life. We're enjoying this Colorado beauty, but we're also learning as we go. We're prepping our trailers as we go. We want to make sure that we're ready just in case any situation, but we're not going to live in fear. And part of that is spiritually prepping, so I'm not going to live in fear anymore. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope more than anything you get something valuable out of our videos. And more than that, I want you to see the importance. Living a life of faith, living a life of family, and understanding the value of freedom. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless.